This is the full moon after the previous lunar eclipse. Mars does shift into Cancer, just an attachment to something that you never had. Folks, do not fear. April is here, and we have some big shifts coming. Mars is shifting into Cancer. Saturn is moving into Pisces. We have a lot of huge things that have already happened, especially the Saturn moving into Pisces. As you can see, I'm going to go through this. I want to, as always, thank my friend Casey Scott for putting together these great calendars for us to use as a guide. I also want to make sure to invite people to this class that's happening, saturnshift.com. You can get this live class and or recording March 31st. I'm going to do it live at 6 p.m. But this is going to be going over this Saturn shift for all 12 moon signs. I'm going to be talking about Sade Sati, this relationship between Saturn and the moon, because people are thinking now that they've just gone into Sade Sati because it's a new shift. I'm going to explain all of these things so you can also check that out. But today we're going to be going over this forecast of April. And as you can see here at the beginning, I even have things that started before April, and that means this nature of Saturn, who has just moved into Pisces. So for the next 2.5 years, we're going to have this huge shift. So that's why you want to go and get the free class. That's saturnshift.com, Saturn in all 12 moon signs, right? So let's just get into it here. And first of all, again, just to make sure, subscribe, get notified, ring the bell and whatnot, because I do these updates all the time. And leave a nice comment as well. So you could see Saturn has already gone into Pisces when we start this month, but then right away we have this Venus-Rahu conjunction. These are exact conjunctions. And by the way, the pileup of planets here at the beginning, because Saturn has just moved into Pisces, Saturn is also going to be very close to both Venus and Mercury. They're very early, again, within a couple degrees. And it doesn't have to be the exact conjunction. Here it says Venus-Rahu exact conjunction. And then you see, for example, on Friday the 4th, it's a Mercury-Rahu exact conjunction. But again, these are within like 1 degree or so. But the entire first part of the month, we're going to have this Saturn, Mercury, Venus, Rahu are all within 1 degree of each other. They're all in Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, which is about the first 3 degrees of Pisces. So that is about close as an exact conjunction as you can get. And this means that, again, this big shift of Saturn into Pisces means that for the last couple years, we've had this nature of Saturn has been going through Aquarius, where we're concentrating and focusing on our collective responsibilities, political, social, global, all of those things, and even things like in our communities. But now Saturn moves into Pisces, where it's about dissolving that structure, at least letting go of certain things, right? We were working hard to have a sort of collective nature and things that we're working on together. Certain aspects have left and have dissolved, and now we need to recommit to what's next, what's left over. After the shards of the old certain things have disappeared, now we have to rebuild it again. But in rebuilding, first we have to let go. And this next couple of years of Pisces is a lot of Pisces letting go of your illusions around certain things. So keep all of this in mind. As this Venus-Rahu conjunction in Pisces, Venus-Rahu very much about letting go of certain relationship paradigms, agreements. Again, this whole energy has been pervasive for quite a while, but as Venus gets very close to Rahu, there can be some real kind of, again, an excitement of more illusions, delusions. Instead, you want to elevate. Venus is exalted here So it can be very elevated, pure sort of purification of what was previously very toxic, because Rahu can have a kind of toxic relationship. But Venus is exalted in Pisces. It's still exchanging with Jupiter. So again, exalting and purifying relationship agreements is all pervasive, but we can really feel it on Tuesday the 1st. And then you can see Venus is going to keep going retrograde back. And then on the 23rd of April, Venus passes over Rahu again, but it's when Venus is moving forward. So Venus is going to be hanging out within a couple degrees of Rahu for the whole month, really. Again, because it's going retrograde now, then Venus is going to go forward, but it's around this whole sort of excitement of bringing our relationships into a higher perspective. But watch for some illusions and delusions around that time. Actually, really, this sort of whole month. Then we have Mars going into Cancer on April 2nd. Mars had been in Gemini since January 20th. Now Mars goes back into Cancer, which could show a kind of releasing of some of the emotional charge that we have had around ideas and a sort of contentiousness. I think Mars going into Cancer is going to, especially even globally, where we see, the potentials for war and battle and stuff like that, see certain warriors get a little, lose their grip a little bit. Because again, when Mars goes into Cancer, the warrior spirit is more subdued. And again, in Gemini, there's been a lot of contentious arguing things. So maybe we'll get a little relief from some of the contentiousness with Mars going through Cancer, even in the sort of political or social realm, and in your personal life as well. Mars being subdued isn't the worst thing at this time, for sure, particularly with all these planets in Pisces and eclipses and stuff. Friday, again, now we have Mercury-Rahu conjunction, Friday, April 4th. Again, this is an exact conjunction, but again, Mercury, Rahu, Venus and Saturn are all hanging out in Pisces. So again, this Mercury-Rahu conjunction, we have Mercury retrograde here, and it's trying to see through the kind of confusing story. So again, Rahu is going to exacerbate that. It's still, I should say, he's still retrograde. So you might find excitement of around some confusing stories with this Mercury, Rahu, a kind of revisiting of some sort of delusional thinking, and or the people around you. Because again, if you have a powerful Mercury, like for me, mine is in Gemini, it's very prominent. I'm noticing all the people around me are dropping the ball a little bit. So I'm being extra diligent, right? Extra vigilant to make sure that people around me aren't dropping the ball, even going the extra mile, and not resenting them for getting details all messed up. Now we have Monday, April 7th, Mercury retrograde ends. Okay, so now Mercury will start moving forward again. Again, it's still very close to Rahu again. You see it says Mercury-Rahu conjunction again on the 10th. This is because Mercury went back past Rahu, stops, then goes forward. Now, again, so notice this entire time, this whole month, up until around the 12th or 13th or so, Mercury is going to be within a degree or so of Rahu. Goes back, it stations. When it says the retrograde ends, it means it stations. It stops, and then it starts moving forward again. So again, we're going to have Mercury, Rahu, Venus all within about a degree, like I said. So again, we can overcomplicate it or we can keep it simple. The Pisces theme is the big theme. That's why I keep trying to make it simple. All of these aspects of life, our relationships, our agreements, how we communicate, what we're committed to, are all trying to, we're trying to make sense of what to let go of so that we can find a deeper holistic connection, because Pisces again is about that surrender, that mystical cosmic nature of all of these energies. So keep all of this in mind, even though it's very specific. Mercury retrograde ends, Mercury Rahu conjunction again. This is just very precise, as Casey Scott does. He makes these calendars very precise, but it just shows how connected they are. And of course, we're still having this within the Venus-Jupiter exchange. So again, Venus is here in Pisces, exalted. It's really the kind of queen of the whole thing. This is why there's a lot of inspiration and purpose and beauty that's possible now, because it's exchanging with Jupiter and Taurus and really bringing those things down into your life, right? That's also very possible now. So then we get into this lunation here. We have the full moon in Virgo in Chitra Nakshatra, and Venus stops its retrograde motion on the same day. That's April 12th. So the full moon in Chitra will be also with the sun at the very last degrees of Pisces. You can see the sun then goes into Aries the next day on the 13th. So it's another one of these lunations right as the planets are changing signs. This also happened the last full moon, which was the lunar eclipse in Virgo, which actually at the very end of Leo. So again, but this full moon in Virgo, of course, I'll do a full forecast on that. But this full moon in Virgo is where we have this sort of harmonizing of the Pisces energy. And in Chitra Nakshatra, Chitra is ruled by the celestial architect. And these lunations are done by me every 2 weeks for the Examiner members. You can see here, the Examiner members just got the new moon in Pisces forecast. That new moon in Pisces forecast is where I just did a very detailed update for the members. This was this actual Pisces eclipse for all 12 signs. I'll do the same thing with this full moon in Chitra, this update. So again, this is at the member site. You can also click below where it says join and join at the appropriate level. Members of the visionary level get Vedic forecast as well. All members even at the basic level get a weekly forecast. And then the examiners get in-depth daily deep dive, which I'm going to do also here for this April forecast. I wind up doing about a 45-minute video. Again, this is a general overview of the month, but in this member video, I go over every day in great detail. I'm going to examine every single day of the month in great detail for the Examiner members. So you can go ahead and click that and also get that update. But this will be very big, of course. All of the lunations will be important, of course. And this full moon is closing the eclipse window because this is the full moon after the previous full moon, which was a lunar eclipse. So this kind of closes officially, at least, the sun moving off of the node enough to where we're no longer in the throes of the eclipse vortex, because we definitely have the eclipse vortexes that are going and they keep us, let me see, I actually have this, and they really keep us, oops, not that. Anyway, I'll just go on. This really closes it, right? So there's that 30-day cycle where or actually it's about a 60-day cycle where we're mostly right in the eclipse window, where we have all of the most palpable energy of the eclipse, and we're still in it, and we're going to be in it until around the end of April. So all of April, we're still getting a lot of this eclipse energy, because the month before the eclipse and the month after, that's when it's the most intense. So we're still going to be feeling this for quite a while. And as you see, this next new moon in Aries in Botany is the new moon after the recent Pisces eclipse. But so all of April is still very much active in this eclipse cycle. So then we have this exact Saturn-Rahu conjunction, which happens on the 21st of April. And again, the exact Saturn-Rahu conjunction, this is a thing that people have been fearing, right? Saturn-Rahu, oh, again, no reason to get that way. We still have the other planets there, but Saturn-Rahu, it can really exacerbate our fears. It can show obstacles. It can show things dissolving and obstacles that revolve around things dissolving, for example, because again, we want a certain structure in our life. Saturn Rahu is going to really exacerbate these potential vulnerabilities. But again, the other thing to realize is that when you're committed to surrender and letting go, that's the deepest aspect of Saturn in Pisces. And so again, I invite you to please go to this saturnshift.com, and if you can't, even if you can't attend live, get this forecast and get the recordings, and make sure you understand how it affects your moon sign as well, because I'm going to be talking about Saturn influencing the moon. Again, the dreaded Sade Sati, and how to really look at it. Of course, it's no game, but many times we make too much out of this Sade Sati and we overlook other things like Saturn's aspects. Big thing might be Saturn in your ascendant. There's all kinds of ways and things that are more impactful than the Sade Sati, but also wherever Saturn is going relative to your moon, it's also going to have an effect. So we'll talk about that in that live class. But this Saturn Rahu conjunction, again, understand, it's also joined and close to Mercury and Venus, particularly Venus at this point, because Mercury started moving forward. But still, Venus Rahu conjunction, Saturn Rahu conjunction, they're all piled up there, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And again, we can say these are exact to the second, but anything even within a few degrees is a very tight conjunction. So as I say, the whole month of April, we're still dealing with an enormous amount of Pisces energy, post-eclipse, and all of this Pisces post-eclipse energy is going to be the prominent and dominant theme. But again, the other things happening in context, Mars does shift into Cancer, so that will be a shift, but it's also even a more kind of watery environment as well. So a lot of emotional processing is going to be happening, and you need to, again, connect with a deeper devotional awareness. This is why I've been talking so much about the need to understand spirituality beyond just your emotions and how you feel about things. Underneath the emotions is a deeper devotional nature. Connecting to the heart is deeper than just being triggered by the emotional responses, right? These aren't games, man. This is real now. Now you're going to really feel it. So sometimes, again, people they don't like because they sound like I'm really minimizing emotions. I'm not. We're all emotional. I'm just saying that you have to connect with something deeper. And again, all of this energy of Saturn, Rahu, you shouldn't take it as a kind of fearful thing. This is beautiful. Bhakti, devotion. Venus, Rahu, Saturn. Again, Venus is devotion, beauty. Rahu is expanding it. Saturn is saying, okay, now sit still, concentrate, go inward and feel that thing. Turn away from the clamor of the world and all the pressure of the world and connect internally to stillness, peace, silence. It's everything you want. It really is. Instead, and again, this is why we should understand astrology this way and not just, oh, bad stuff, Saturn, Rahu, oh. Okay, that's always the potential. If you're not turning inward, then you're going to just base your whole life on what happens outside. And again, Pisces is where you're seeing things dissolve in the world around you, and you have to let go of some of it. But anything you can lose, you never had to begin with. It was just an attachment to something that you never had in all aspects of life. So it's a great time to shed and be liberated from aspects of your relationships, aspects of your communication, which is Mercury, ways that you misunderstand things, and deepen all of your practices. So this Saturn-Rahu conjunction, this Venus-Rahu conjunction, of course, that also means Saturn-Venus. These are all ripe for spiritual practice and devotional practice. And if you don't, then you might feel pretty stressed out because, again, Saturn is trying to build a structure on this flowing river. But when we're not so attached, then we can just flow naturally with that inner structure. So then the last big shift is that new moon in Aries, Bharani Nakshatra. And this is very much about a kind of sense of new beginnings. And the new beginnings really started when the sun went into Aries, which is April 13th. April 13th, there was like a new beginning. And I should double back that the sun leaving Pisces and going into Aries is going to feel, it's going to bring a lot more focus and clarity. My apologies. When I looked at it, I was looking at it more in context of the full moon. But after April 13th, when the sun gets out of the eclipse sign and gets into his exalted state, now we're going to feel more agency. You'll feel more agency then because the sun is no longer being eclipsed. He's no longer in the watery emotions of Pisces. He's in Aries, where he's ready to lead forward and blaze a trail forward, which will then influence everything else. And it'll be a welcome change because it's so much of this like, ugh, we want to get moving, right? After a while, all of this eclipse energy starts to get draining, of course, right? It starts to get draining. And so from April 13th onward, those eclipse energies start to be mixed with more, again, personal agency, clarity. And then we have this new moon in Aquarius in Bharani Nakshatra here. And that will be a new cycle of Aries. Something that's not on here, and I don't have the day in front of me, but there's also a day called Akshaya Tritiya, which should be, if this is the new moon, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, should be on the 29th, should be Akshaya Tritiya, which is where both the sun and the moon are exalted. So that's a very auspicious day. So there's a lot of auspiciousness ahead, okay? And every astrological configuration is a portal into a cosmic joy and beauty and power. All of it is. And if you ever listen to people, if you ever listen to astrologers who make everything all gloom and doom and that things are too big for you to handle, or, oh my God, the world's going to fall apart. Again, watch your state of mind, okay? Because that's really not the way it works. All of these are your energies. They're different aspects of consciousness. And again, one of the things, especially if you know your chart, to show up for this class on Saturn and Pisces, you want to know where your moon is. We're going to talk about how this will influence your moon as well. And it's free, and it's going to give you a feeling of empowerment, not of fear and dread. These are incredible times where we should be hopeful about, especially right now. Saturn going through Pisces is a great time to be shedding falsity, letting go of unreality, right? And so we'll leave it at that. And again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day ahead and month ahead. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the AstroVed certification course of Dattatreya Shiva Baba in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018. I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher. On there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.